Okay, so um, I'm going to start today by telling you my story about how love has saved my life. But first, I'm going to tell you a story of what almost killed me. So it was in the early hours of Christmas Day 2011, and after staying up late wrapping presents, I finally fell asleep. I woke up choking on smoke. I crawled to the window on my stomach and was able to open the window and get out onto the porch outside of my bedroom. I ran to the windows on the side, the opposite side, to look for my mom and dad. And when they weren't there, I scrambled up the scaffolding, which was on the outside of this old Victorian that I was in the process of finalizing the refinishing. And I went up that scaffolding to get to the third floor, to where my children were sleeping. I was able to get that window open, but I could not get in. The smoke and the fire were so thick that I could not get in. I could not get in to save my children. I've been told that based on the intensity of the smoke and the fire, that they were probably already gone. My parents died that night, as did my three girls, Lily, Sarah, and Grace. Lily was 9, and Sarah and Grace were twins, and they were 7. And I lived, barely. After the fire, I went into a few different mental institutions, alone and terrified, until finally my friend from college, Kate Askew, came to get me. She and her husband, Jess, said, "You can live here with us." And that was Super Bowl Sunday, 2012, in Little Rock, Arkansas. I lived with them for most of that year, and they gave me love, unconditional love. I never felt judged with Kate and Jess, and when I felt devastated and sad and my hair was falling out in giant clumps and I couldn't eat, they just held me and made me feel better. I felt like I had been blown to bits, and I felt like nothing, and I wanted to be nothing. I just wanted to be with my children. I kept begging God to take me too. Please take me too. I would yell out in anguish, but it didn't work, and I am still here. I am sure now that I am here because of the breath of a million prayers that people have sent me from all over the world. I am also here because my friends Kate and Jess held me together. I'm also here because Bill Duke, who I met years ago when I was in college, we re-met again in 2013, and he asked me to marry him. I was like, "Are you serious? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you?" And but I married him, and so in July 2014, Bill's unconditional love soothes and nurtures me every single day, and his love is a miracle to me. And if any of you were in the lobby at the hotel where I was staying this morning, you saw me come downstairs looking for coffee like a zombie, because Bill brings me coffee in bed every single day. I am also here because when I was 25 years old, I met Jim Winters at Esquire magazine. We reconnected in 2006, and he has been my business partner ever since. And it was Jim who kept our agency thriving while I was away trying to heal. I started my advertising agency when I was 29 years old, which was like, I don't know, a month ago or something. No, I'm 52 now. So I started that agency when I was 29. Jim kept the agency going because he said he wanted me to have something to come home to. That when I could And when I was ready, I would have work to come home to. And this was, of course, a huge act of love in my life. My 3 daughters live on inside of me, and they are the crucial reason that I am still here, because I can still feel their love. I believe that love is the most important, strongest energy that there is in this world. Our connection is different, but it is still just as strong. And in a strange way, on some days, it feels even stronger. And I know that that doesn't sound possible. So yes, love saved me. But when I dug more deeply past the love, I wanted to find something that I could give back. How could I be of service to this world? If I'm going to be here, how could I do something of meaning besides sell sugary soda pop? Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I wanted to make a difference in the names of my children. So I'm going to take you back to a few years before the fire in 2007. Jim Winters and I gave a talk at the Women's Wear Daily CEO Summit. The topic was innovation in marketing. Our point of view was that true innovation in marketing could occur only when companies had empathy with their consumers. So we went through the period of invention, we went through the period of innovation as marketing, TV, radio, and now innovation is empathy. We have to truly be empathetic with the people that we're trying to sell to. And I think a lot of people have talked about that today. That understanding and seeing life through their eyes and their ears, that was the only way to find meaningful, creative connection. At the time, this was a revolutionary idea. It has since become our point of difference as an agency, as well as our guiding light. And it is what we believe today, now more than ever. So now I'm going to fast forward to 2015. And we are working on a pitch for a $10 billion global beauty company. They wanted us to create an empowering ad for women. Usually, empowering ad for women means sounds nice, does nothing. So we started with a listening lab, a part of our empathy-based creative process, and we got an insight that we hadn't expected. As always, real women really do lead us to our best creative concept. The question we asked women was simple. Would you wear red lipstick to ask for a raise? Now, we thought we had nailed this. We thought it was going to become the next ALS bucket challenge, and it was going to spread all over social media, and like, you know how you fall in love with your first idea, and you think, oh my God, it's great, it's great. And but it wasn't great. And so this is the part of the listening lab that we did on red lipstick, and I'll let you guys see for yourself.
I love it.
I love red lipstick.
She has a lot of red lipstick. Whenever I put on that lipstick, I tell you, I become like a powerful woman. It's like I can take over the world. It gives you that extra oomph.
Like I can put myself out into the world.
That's like your empowerment today, you know?
No, I would not wear red lipstick to ask for a raise.
I would not wear red lipstick for a raise.
I probably would not wear really bold makeup.
I don't know if I'd wear it for my raise.
I don't know if it would be effective.
I'd rather wear less makeup than more.
Pushing your femininity in someone's face.
It'd be a little too in your face.
So now we had a conundrum. How could all of these very confident, very smart young women feel that they had to hide their femininity and not push it into someone else's face? even if it made them feel empowered and feel good. After a lot of research and more talking to these young women and others, we discovered an essay called The Confidence Gap that describes some of the real drivers of why women and men behave so differently in the workplace. But what was at the center of it, what was at the core center of it, was the objectification of women and the very serious impact that this has on a woman's confidence. Because the more we as women are exposed to objectifying ads, the more we self-objectify. And basically, that's what those women were worried about. When we Googled objectification of women, because, you know, that's like the research tool, right? What came up was advertising, the very industry that I happen to love and work in. This is when Jim and I knew that we had the power to make a difference. We decided that we were going to stop objectifying women and men in all of the advertising we do from here and into the future. And we were also going to ask brands and agencies to consider doing the same. To bring this to life, we launched a video in January that gave voice to the voiceless women in the ads that came up in our Google search. On International Women's Day, we launched a second video that showed the harm caused by objectification. And this is a compilation of both of those ads. Films.
What is a thigh gap?
When you're standing straight up, there's like a gap in between your thighs. Girls just don't want their thighs to touch.
The Kylie Jenner challenge has gone viral. Doctors warn it can cause a number of issues.
Oh my god.
We raise our little girls to view their bodies as projects to constantly be improved.
Advertising often trivializes battering, sexual assault, and even murder.
Cologne continues to speak of up to 1,000 men groping women on New Year's Eve.
I just think that it's harming women psychologically, physically, mentally, socially.
You released a video anonymously on YouTube. I wish I could play the whole video here because it's incredibly powerful.
I love giving blowjobs to sandwiches.
I hope when my daughter grows up that she has friends just like these.
The key to my heart? A man that smells like a vagina.
I'd sell my body for a burger.
The viral video her agency created has exploded on social media. Badger is calling on industry colleagues to stop using images that objectify women and girls.
In a world where we hear over and over again, sex sells, can you make a difference? Can you get the rest of the industry to go along with this?
I stand up for my sister and my mom.
Girls are growing up thinking that how they look is more important than how they feel or who they are and what they can do. Thank you. So I encourage all of you to go to womennotobjects.com to see the other videos that we've done, or these videos in their entirety, as well as research materials. So we have done an open source research with Apex, I think it is, Apex, and that looks at all of the major 7 key purchase indicators and what happens with an ad that doesn't objectify a woman from the same exact brand that does objectify a woman. And I mean, it's astonishing, the difference. It hurts brand reputation, purchase intent, and this is across households with children, women, millennials, you name it. It was a very broad paper that we did, and you guys are welcome to take it and email it to all your friends and coworkers. and please read it. So at this moment when all of this happened, and it took off like, we had lightning in a bottle, basically, and we couldn't believe it, I knew that for me personally, I had found my reason to be here, that people cared deeply about this topic and they wanted to change. So this gave me a great source of hope. I believe, and most people believe, once they understand what it is, that ending the objectification of women in our work is not only the right thing to do, it is the smart thing to do for our businesses. So just to be clear, we use 4 different filters because a woman looking sexy is great. We are sexual beings. This idea that little girls can't go to school because if they're showing their arms, that somehow that's sexualized, that's not what this is about. Objectification is literally treating a woman or a man, but it happens 94% of the time more often with women in ads than men, as things. So our first filter is props. So again, I don't care. You want to do this in your bedroom? I don't care where you want to do this, but don't try to sell me stuff doing it. And because here, clearly, the man has agency. He is the subject and she is the object. Here, a woman is being treated literally like a cut of meat. This is women as, sex toys, basically. Choose between this or the Nissan. So again, it's all through that male gaze. And sometimes it can be done in copy. This won a Gold Lion last year. The move doesn't work right now, but basically it's from Inner Flora, and it says, our job is to make beautiful Valentine's Day bouquets. Your job is to not call her the wrong name. So you can objectify and copy too. Yay. Part. So, this was a clickbait that I found in my one of my feeds on my phone. But, obviously, this is an ad for vapor cigarettes, because that's where cigarettes come from, evidently. These really get me, especially when they use children's, things like lollipops and make it as, part of just her body parts. That's all we're selling. And this is for condoms, XXL condoms. So when we use a woman's provocative body part to sell something, that's objectification. And then plastic. So what does that mean? People get really hung up on this. Plastic means beyond human achievability. Retouching beyond human achievability. So this is a really, really, really old one I'm starting with. And actually, the woman on the left who's been retouched to be so skinny, obviously her real body's on the right, her body anatomically could not hold her head up. Like, that's how completely ridiculous it is. This is what Julia Roberts really looks like. She could never look like the person on the right. And so we don't need to be, especially to young women, young girls, giving them this false sense of what they're supposed to look like. This is Lady Gaga before and after retouching. And, hair does not come that shiny. So it's just, it can't, it won't, etc. But when we set up these false premises, because that's what this is, it's a false premise, then what we're saying is that if you cannot measure up to it, then there is something wrong with you. So it's creating anxiety and a supposed fix that will never happen. The last filter that we use is empathy. So when we look at this image, what if that woman were you, or your mom, or your daughter, or your sister? How would that make you feel? And I think that's the easiest way to know if something is objectifying and is wrong and is not working. Now, I'm going to tell you something now, that last year I went and did a talk at the Cannes Lions. And at the end, I asked for people to sign basically for womennotobjects.com because I was so pissed at the Teleflora ad that won a Gold Lion and some other ones like the aspirin movie thing. And anyway, so we got 700 signatures from the biggest agencies, biggest companies in the world. It was fantastic. And I sound like Donald Trump. It was tremendous. And but anyway, so empathy is now in the jury packets at Cannes, which is a very big deal. And it says empathy is now the measurement that the Cannes Lion jury packets now use to call out the harm advertising, which uses gender bias and objectification, does to women, and therefore to all of us. They are asking for every jury member to consider this premise before awarding any work. Also, the jury is now at 43% women at Cannes, which is another huge accomplishment, started by Kat and the Cleos. So anyway, here we are. We're in the Motor City. Let's talk a little bit about women, empathy, and automobiles. In the past, it was a little frightening. The ads were so bad that they could almost be called like the birth of objectification of women in ads. This is one of my favorite ones for Pacer. And the less you spend on a car, the more you can spend on other things like women. And then this is a recent one for two-zone air conditioning from Skoda. And this is another one from B&W. You know you're not you know you're not the first, but do you really care? And it's for pre-owned vehicles. And I think that girl is 10 years old. So, you know, obviously, it's on the wane in Detroit in automobiles, primarily because, you know, this overall industry learned that women influence 85% or 80% of car purchases. 65% make car purchases. And so, you know, they have to be more secret now, you know, like in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue or Playboy, things like that. And that's not the point. I think the point is that it's changing and that it continues to change, but that there needs to be yet another kind of change. So we did a listening lab, and the listening lab that we did, I'm going to show you just a clip of.
I love my car. Actually, I really do love my car. I love my car. I feel powerful when I'm in it.
maybe the what's the one with the family?
No. No, there are no ads. They're not geared toward me and what I would need. It's all like about off-roading in the mountains and, you know, like my car can drive over mountain terrain and you're like, I just want to get to work.
Yeah, it would cut my research in half. It would also give me more things to think about.
So, women love their cars. I know I personally love my car. I love the feeling of getting in my car. And they feel freedom and control and power. But they don't like the advertising. At least this group didn't. And no one really speaks to them. And I think we can all agree on that. No one really understands them or gets them, or very few do. So my personal belief is that the disconnect is empathy. It is what Jim and I see as missing from advertising overall. Because empathy is the ability to see the world from another person's perspective and not judge it. Empathy is not trying to silver cloud stuff or make things, sound nice, do nothing. Empathy is not stereotyping women or men, and it definitely doesn't feel sorry for anyone. Empathy, connection, understanding. This is what gives people purpose. It's what gave me purpose. When I understood the harm that objectification did, I wanted to do something to change it because I understood it. I had empathy. I self-objectified. I mean, I'm wearing this giant cape because I think my butt's too big. Okay, like I still do self-objectify. I'm just kidding, actually. But purpose-driven advertising, purpose-driven companies are not afraid to take a stand, and we are the ones that are willing to trust them when they do. And guess what? Empathy is not gender specific. One does not need a special type of anatomy to get what I'm talking about. It takes desire, the desire to see the world through someone else's eyes. Having said this, the world is 50% female, and women influence over 80% of all automobiles purchases. So it seems to me that women should represent 50% of creative positions in every agency, as we should represent 50% of the CEOs in the US, 50% of the C-suite, 50% of every board of director, 50% of every position at every workplace. We should, but we don't. And guess what? There is no one person to blame for this. We cannot be victims of our own lives. Slide. We have to fight for the changes we want, and we have to take a stand. And since we are also the mothers of this world, we should have a paid family leave act in the US that takes care of mothers and fathers, however they gender identify, but we don't. So we will have to continue to fight for this as well. Fight without anger and blame, and fight without fear. Because I am living proof that the worst possible horror can happen, and yet I am still here, and I am still fighting. So I am your guarantee that there is nothing to be afraid of. And lastly, only we can create change, using whatever tools we have. Our voice, our social channels, our creativity. No one is going to give us anything because we deserve it. We have to go after it, and not with hate, but with love in our hearts. That's one of the reasons why I love Kat Gordon so much, and the micro actions that she has created. Hashtag Women Not Objects was started to end the unequal portrayal of women in advertising, and we still have a long road ahead to equality. But the more we talk about it and ask men and women to really see their daughters or mothers or themselves portrayed this way, The more support we get, and the more change happens. Thank you.